I have a presentation somewhere. It's coming. Here it is. So, hi, my name is Christine Renaud. I'm from Montreal. I'm a social entrepreneur, CEO and co-founder of E180, which is a matchmaking website for people interested in going for a coffee to exchange knowledge with their peer. So, I grew up in a small village called Saint-Martin, where my mom and my grandmother were also born. 5,000 people, an equal amount of cows. My life is definitely very different from the lives of my ancestor. And as I was preparing for this speech, and I was wondering, what brought me here among you guys, amazing educators and entrepreneurs from all over the States and Canada and the world, I was wondering, what made a difference in my life? And I started thinking about the schools I attended and the curriculum I followed, and I couldn't help but think that it was actually the people I met that really made a difference in my life. Some of them were teachers, like Paul, my ballet teacher, who by calling us clumsy rats when she felt we didn't care enough, yes, clumsy rats, somehow it felt good at the time, she really taught us that it was possible to be an inspiring leader and being pretty harsh, but at the same time being loving and care for your students. I also met in my life Paul, my roommate when I was at the Cambridge Co-op. And Paul taught me that it was possible to be what you really want to be and not being only what people expect from us. At 82-year-old, Paul was perfectly fine with his little glass of wine he drank every night, and the amount of ice cream he was eating, and the fact that he was a daily peace marcher in our neighborhood by himself. He just would do peace marches by himself. And he loved his girlfriend. He was driving her on the handlebar of his bicycle that he was riding through the Harvard yard. So it was a very unique being that taught me that you can be unique and not care for what people think you should be doing or who you should be. So we all know that we learn from our peers. I mean, I stand here before you, I'm talking about peer learning, I know you know about it. But I was surprised when I read the results of a Canadian study called New Approaches to Lifelong Learning that states that over 55% of the Canadian workforce believe that the chit-chat that happens in the kitchen of the place they work at is actually their #1 tool for professional development. So that very informal chit-chat becomes their main tool for learning the skills they need on the job. And I think that's not surprising because we learn from our peers constantly. People who surround us are kind of like living books. You know, if you take good enough care of them, they will stay there for you in your life, and they will allow you to go back to them to learn some more, or even to relearn the things that you might have forgotten as you go along. So my question for you is, whose book are you? You contribute in who's learning, basically, because we were talking about learning, but something that is very interesting about that too is something you will find on the memes on Facebook lately, that we actually retain 85% of the things that we teach. So as educator, if we want to foster lifelong learning, something we might want to be doing is also fostering lifelong teaching. I mean, maybe our role as educators is to help our students by providing them the guides they need to learn something new, but also helping them in becoming the guides they can be for others. So we're not the only one who are thinking about this right now. Just in this room, we have amazing and innovative companies such as Skillshare or Mentor Mob or a Global Nomad Group that are here with us today. Our take on it for E180 is that we believe that an hour of anybody's time can change someone else's life. So what we do is that we take the peer learning out of the classroom and we put it back into the offices, into the coffee shop, everywhere people gather. So what does that look like? A matchmaking website connecting people who want to go for a coffee to learn something new. So let's say you have an educational startup and you're thinking about moving to Montreal. And you're wondering, is it the good scene for me? Is it the good place for me to move? And I happen to be living in New York right now, and one of my offers on E180 is how to move to Montreal and create a network over there. So you contact me, we go for a Jack and Ginger, and you offer it because that's the good thing to do when you meet somebody and you take an hour of their time. And you just ask me all the questions you have, and I can just share with you maybe some contacts that I think you should be meeting with over there, or the good co-working spaces you might want to work from, the good neighborhoods to move in if you have children. So basically, it's just an hour, but I provide such individualized knowledge based on your needs that hour was probably way more valuable than if you had just Google stuff for an hour. And on top of it, you now have a go-to person to call or to write to if you are in Montreal and you still have questions. Are you skeptical or sleeping? Okay, so let's try it right now here. So just by a show of hands, who here is an educator or is interested in education and would like to learn more about how to use social media to foster learning in the classroom? Anybody is interested? Whoa, have the good crowd for this. Okay. Who could help? Who taught literature with Twitter in the classroom or is blogging with her students? Who feel they have an experience to share about this? A show of hands. You don't need to be an expert. Come, show your hand. Okay, so you have to talk to these guys. Anybody here has an idea for a company you might want to start, an educational company or not? By show of hand? Okay, not that many entrepreneurs. Who has an educational startup and would be willing in providing guidance to those fine folks? Okay, great. So that's basically what we do with our website and the work we do. We basically unveil the knowledge available at all places at all times so that people can connect to exchange knowledge and to learn from each other. So I'm always really moved when I go on our Facebook page and I see some of our members just posting the pictures of their meetings. We have a couple of them you can go and see. And this was actually the first ever E180 meeting. It was Elodie wanted to go to India, but she had basically never traveled before. And she went and met with Paul. Yeah, like the 3 characters in my story are all called Paul, which is weird, but it's all real people, so I have to call them by their names. So Elodie went and met with Paul, and Paul had spent a year in India, so they just chatted at a restaurant. And Elodie went, she spent 4 months in India, she came back, and she is now offering on E180 how to travel as a single woman in India. So it's kind of a chain of learning that is happening here. So basically, since we launched in last November, this meeting was part of 250 meetings that happened in Montreal, 250 knowledge-sharing meetings between people who basically don't know each other, but just care for each other's learning. And the reason why I'm mentioning all our work and the examples of the impact of our work in Montreal is because we really believe that not just cities, but any place where human beings gather around a shared purpose can become learning hubs for a community. Another project we have that kind of shows this is the project, the work we're doing with a library that allows its members, when they check in at the library, to also check in on E180 to tell them, the people that are there, that they are willing to share 20 minutes of their time as they are in the library and telling other people what they know and what they're looking for. So we're creating a learning hub just by unveiling the knowledge that is available at a place where people are interested in sharing their knowledge. So my question to you is, how can you turn your school or your neighborhood coffee shop or the conferences you're organizing, how can you turn those gathering of humans into a learning hub? How can you turn the people around you and make them not only lifelong learners, but also lifelong teachers? How can you go about this? And if we want to scale it and make it bigger, how can you transfer your matchmaking power and transfer it to the people around you so that it's everybody's concerned to care about other people's learning? It's not just you thinking about learning and thinking about knowledge, but everybody around you. So everybody becomes a matchmaker. So you're not the only one anymore to be thinking about learning and connecting people, but everybody around you is thinking about, oh, my friend wants to learn this. I just met this great person. I should put them in touch because they could learn from each other. How can you go about transferring that matchmaking power? So that's basically our mission, and that's what we're working on right now. And I invite you in this time of collaboration to also think about how you can make everybody a learning hub. And please share your findings and your experience with me via Twitter, Facebook, email, but let us know so we can all work in creating learning hubs all over the world. Thank you.